good evening. I'm Kimberly Fowler in Chopper 11. Right now we're looking at a very busy track northbound on the 400. Everyone heading up to Cottage Country. Nice weather this weekend. You expect a lot of busy traffic this hour. This is a look at Highway 9. It is busy going Aurora Road up through Highway 9. But good news, no collisions up in towards Cottage Country. We did have earlier problems northbound 400 at Highway 7. Those problems have cleared away. Closer towards home, northbound James Street. That's closed at Hunter. That's all for a collision investigation. And westbound 403, we had two problems. One at Main, one at the Link. Both problems will have cleared away. Getting the best rate in your car insurance, are you sure?
June 11, 09.
You can compare insurance quotes online from competing insurers. That's
Marc Emery coming up.
CIX.ca. For CHCH News in Chopper 11, I'm Kimberly Fowler.
The man dubbed the Prince of Pot is going to spend some time in a U.S. prison. The question is, how much?
Marc Emery, Canada's leading marijuana activist, announced earlier this week that he plans to plead guilty to one of 3 drug-related charges against him. One count of distributing marijuana in a Seattle courtroom in August. He likely will be sentenced in September or October. Emery was facing extradition to the United States on the charges which relate to a mail-order business selling marijuana seeds to people in the U.S. and Canada from 1998 to 2005.
And joining us now in Toronto, we have Marc Emery and his wife Jodie sitting next to him. Marc, the prosecutor will probably ask for 5 to 8 years. Do you expect to spend that much time behind bars? And will you have to do your time in Canada or in the States?
Well, their argument will be that I helped facilitate the growth of more marijuana than almost anybody else ever brought before the U.S. criminal justice system. And so he will be asking for 5 to 8 years in a U.S. federal penitentiary. I, on the other hand, and my lawyers will be asking for no jail time or very little jail time because we have a lot of mitigating factors in our favor. I didn't keep any of the money. We gave $4 million away to charities and politicians, class action suits, rallies, legal challenges. I paid my taxes on everything. I was operating perfectly transparently. Here in Canada for 10 years, everybody knew what was going on. So we're hoping that the judge, Ricardo Martinez at the Seattle Federal Court, will look upon me as someone who's not a regular criminal or a criminal at all, but someone who perhaps in his idea might be misguided in the way we approach our politics. So I'm hoping for a good result, but I'm prepared to spend probably up to 5 years in a U.S. federal penitentiary. Our objective will be to get me transferred back to a Canadian prison once I'm convicted in the United States.
Marc, you may not have kept the money and you may have had noble reasons for doing what you did, but the reality is it's still illegal in the United States.
Well, it's still illegal in Canada, but of course there's a great deal of tolerance to seed vendors in Canada. My block where I sold seeds has 5 vendors been selling there for a decade. Toronto, Hamilton have seed vendors. There are dozens of them across the country. It's a very selective prosecution is my contention, but nonetheless the U.S. court may paint me to be a very big-time producer of marijuana.
Okay, Jodie, even though your husband is prepared to go to jail, are you prepared to carry on the family business? And that's Cannabis Culture Magazine and its website. That's Pot TV on YouTube. That's your online store. Are you prepared to take on all that and have your husband away for, as he says, maybe 5 years?
Well, I'm not looking forward to it, of course, but I have to be prepared. I need to be ready to carry on all the hard work he's done and continue to work to end this insane drug war and end this prohibition of cannabis, which is putting good, innocent people in jail, people who have harmed no one, who are non-violent, just like my husband. And if he goes away, I hope everybody's going to rally to help end these laws, which our conservative government are making even worse. But, of course, it's very upsetting. I try not to think about it. But I'm going to work very, very hard to keep the movement alive.
Would you be prepared to go to jail as well?
I don't think I would be able to go to jail. That's why out of the 3 forms of changing the world, political action, education, and civil disobedience, I'm choosing to be involved in politics and education. I'm not as brave as my husband and others who are willing to break the law to show how unjust it is.
Okay, I want to talk about breaking the law. Marc, you had to be prepared at some point to go to jail. Now there's also studies that raise questions about the safety of marijuana, suggesting it might trigger health problems in some, but not all people. Shouldn't a definitive study be done now on pot before anyone considers legalizing it?
Absolutely not. There are hundreds and hundreds of very fatal, lethal products out on the market, from cars, guns, even water. Government-approved water will kill people, but cannabis won't kill anybody. It's non-fatal, non-toxic, and so even if there are health anomalies associated with marijuana, health risk should never be a reason to make something illegal. We have alcohol, tobacco, prescription drugs. We have killers by the hundreds out there on the streets, and they're all legal. The reason I'm opposed to prohibition is because people shouldn't go to jail for a peaceful, honest lifestyle choice like marijuana. Whether it hurts your health or not is not relevant, and I won't even talk about
Why do you say it's not relevant?
Because health shouldn't be a criteria for making something illegal, or for that matter, putting someone in jail. Just because you or others think marijuana is unhealthy is no reason I should go to jail for that belief.
And there are also numerous studies that have already been done showing that marijuana is not nearly as unhealthy or dangerous as so many other substances, including government-supported tobacco and alcohol and fatty foods. We have young people who are obese, who are getting diabetes as children, and that's a horrible situation. Why is cannabis something that can be, put people in jail when there are other more lethal, more dangerous substances out there, and people should be responsible for whatever activities and actions they take?
Okay, but having said that, do you honestly believe that Canada will consider legalizing marijuana when our neighbor to the south is certainly unlikely to do so, and will likely be more of an enemy than a friend if this country legalizes marijuana?
Well, first of all, prohibition is unsustainable. The gang violence in Mexico, the United States, and Vancouver and Canada will continue to escalate as long as we have prohibition. And the more we enforce prohibition, the more lucrative it gets, the more prices go up, the more gang violence and drug involvement our young people see.
You don't think that'll happen if marijuana is legalized?
Oh, goodness, no. As soon as marijuana is legalized, we won't recognize society because it will change so dramatically.
Really? You don't think they'll find other illegal activities to get into to make money?
There aren't any.
There aren't any?
If we legalize drugs, all drugs, and end drug prohibition, there simply is no source of money anywhere near as lucrative as illegal drugs. People smuggling, prostitution, which we should legalize also, gambling, none of these things provide anywhere near the income that the illegal drug market does.
Okay, Mark, I have to agree with you there, but why are police so resistant? And I mean, they have said on this show that they just absolutely would never support taxing and legalizing and regulating marijuana.
Easy to understand. The police and the organized criminals are the biggest beneficiaries of prohibition, and they work hand in hand together. The police could not demand more money and bigger budgets and more laws and wiretap and all these intrusive surveillance state behaviors if it weren't for prohibition. The police need prohibition more than any other group of people. They are on a financial gravy train. In Vancouver alone last year, 350 police officers earned over $100,000 a year in overtime, all due to the drug war.
I'd have to challenge you on that and say they would simply be working on something else because there's enough drugs and illegal drugs other than marijuana in the city.
If we ended prohibition, we could cut the number of police officers in this country in half. And they know that, and they are very threatened by it.
And politicians and police, or anyone who supports prohibition, is supporting organized crime. The only reason criminals make a lot of money is because it's illegal. I remind everyone to think about alcohol prohibition. We are following the exact same path. And after they ended prohibition of alcohol, we saw the crime rate amongst people dropping dramatically.
And police corruption, and bribery, and violence on the streets.
Point well taken. Marc and Jodie Emery, thanks so much for joining us, and well, continue the fight is all I can say.
We will, in jail or out.
Thank you.
Indeed. So done.
When we come back, how do you deal with a request for cash from a friend to help